Peace world and welcome to Foundation Radio. My name is Adam Barnard. Thank you so much for joining me again today. My guest is the writer and producer best known for his work on Mad Men, Mad About You, 5 to 7, and the creator of the miniseries Alice and Jack, starring Donald Gleason and Andrea Riseborough. The 6th episode of that show airs tonight on PBS. Victor Levin, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for yours. Happy to be here.
So I really, like I said, want to focus on Alice and Jack. It's a fantastic program. It's a 6-part miniseries that's on PBS right now. It's an unorthodox love story. So tell me about the characters Alice and Jack, sort of from a zoomed out perspective, and what inspired you to write the show?
Well, I was inspired to write the show, Adam, by exactly what you just said, that it is unorthodox. You know, there are plenty of orthodox love stories have been written over the decades. I think I'm responsible for a couple of them. And I thought, you know, what if we went after something a little bit more complicated and maybe a little bit more, and this is not to be pejorative of other things, but maybe a little bit more honest, that went a little deeper into the pain and into the complications of love. That was the nascence of it. And of course, the characters, these fictional characters, are outgrowths of wanting to find people who, for purposes of the story, for purposes of delivering something a little less conventional, had a lot that they were carrying around. So that's the basis of Alice and Jack. More complicated, if you will, troubled people than you might normally find.
Now, I know that you were responsible for some work on Mad About You, which is one of the earlier, 90s sitcoms that I felt like bucked the norms of what, in some ways, a love story should be at the time as well. Did you pull any inspiration from that work, or did you find this to be, a tale of two different worlds in a lot of ways?
Well, first of all, I can take absolutely no credit for thinking up Mad About You. That was Paul Reiser and Danny Jacobson and all of their coworkers at the time. But I worked there for 5 years, and I'm sure that it inspires me and lives in me somewhere, every day. Because it was such a great experience, and those two characters and those two actors were so wonderful and so stitched together. And you witness that. You have the benefit of having, those people perform your work sometimes. And of course you carry it around. I mean, that's what you're going for. To me, Paul and Helen felt like real people out there telling a real story of whatever was going on that week, and I never felt the anything artificial. I didn't feel the writing, I didn't feel the directing, I didn't feel the acting. I just felt like I was watching, a couple really funny humans whom I loved. So yeah, you go after that every time. You say, it should be a conversation. It shouldn't be a scene. You say, it should be funny, but they shouldn't be jokes. They should just be things that people say that cause laughter. But let's not call them jokes. It should be dramatic, but it shouldn't be melodramatic. It shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be fake. It shouldn't feel like, somebody sat there and said to themselves, how the heck am I going to get this audience to cry? That's, all of that came from Mad About You, all of it. And
I really do. I mean, not to, belabor or really overemphasize the point, but I really feel like this show is very much a reality-based show in a lot of ways. One of the lines that sticks with me that Alice says in the show is, life just isn't tidy. And I think viewers sometimes when they come into these types of television shows, they have this expectation for, like we said, these really neat, tidy stories that have this really beautiful, happy, composed ending. And I think Alice and Jack is anything but that, but really in the best possible way. How important was it for you to capture the true meaningness of life, that granularity of life that I think doesn't get told in a lot of these stories? And more importantly, really the messiness of love as human beings.
I mean, you've put your finger on it. That was the whole deal. That was the reason to write it. That was the reason the story is what the story is. That fueled us every day.
What I find striking through the show is the fact that Alice and Jack throughout their lives just always find a way back to each other. So many of us can sympathize in a lot of ways, these ideas of unrequited or unfulfilled love. And some ways, processing the feelings of the way reality is as opposed to the way that we think life should be. How much of that part of that, how important was it for you to emphasize that during the story of Alice and Jack, especially in the lead up to the final episode here? What made that such a really striking point of this whole show?
Well, as you say, life isn't tidy. It isn't a fairy tale. It isn't like the stories that we're handed when we're kids. Happily ever after is if you really think about it, a very strange idea. Like you would solve one problem and then for all time, it's all good. I don't know about that, Adam. I think maybe, things are a little bit more, excuse me, a little bit more complicated. So, we especially as regards the ending, but also as regards the beginning and the middle, frankly, we wanted to make sure that things felt real, and real to me means, gosh, do you remember the last line of the movie Patton?
Yes, but refresh the listeners just in case.
It's the last line of the movie Patton. He talks about Roman parades for conquerors, and the very last line is a reminder that all glory is fleeting. So if you think you're on top of the world, I would recommend that you take that opportunity to be very careful, because new obstacles are coming.
Right.
That's just how life goes. So to me, it's not enough to solve one problem, one sort of engineered dramatic problem, and then decide that your story is over and everything's fine. I wanted to go after, I'm 62. I've been around a while, right? I hope to get to 63 and 64. And it's, every time you look around, there's another thing you gotta work your way through. And that's, so why not tell a story like that?
One of the things that stuck out in my research of the show, and in a lot of the pieces that I've seen written about the show, talk about the wedding speech, which happens during episode 3. It's this really powerful and heartbreaking speech. Tell me more about the writing process that went into creating and crafting that speech, and how you felt that Donal, presented that in character.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. I'm sure I worked as hard on that portion as on any portion of the series. And I thought Donal did an amazing job, because it would have been easy for him to do too much, for him to push it, and he didn't. That was a great example of, just being a person inside a role rather than trying to do something dramatic. He just was fabulous in every take, by the way. There's only one in the show, obviously, but right. He did it so many times. And here was the key to that. A lot is being asked of Jack at that point. And I like to believe that characters are heroic when they rise to an occasion, not necessarily having a fight or telling someone off, right, or, in some way being bare knuckled, but also being graceful and being generous, having a generosity of spirit, being able to take the personal hit, being a little bit of pain yourself because it's the right thing to do for someone else. And so that size of spirit of Jack's character was very, very important to convey. In my view, Jack is the strongest person you know. He just doesn't seem conventionally strong. But if you watch and if you listen, this is a person who consistently rises to the occasion the way that I think we all would like to believe we could if we were put in that situation. And Danny actually says to him at some point, I'm not sure I could have done it if the roles were reversed, because most people couldn't have done it. I don't think I could have done it.
Right.
Adam, I mean, it's hard. When your heart is breaking, it is hard to get up there and say what he says for the sake of the person he loves, even though he knows that person is going off with someone else.
It really is. It touches on my last question here. Just at the story itself is not even just so much of a love story, but it feels like a classic tragedy in a lot of ways. And like I said, I just got a chance to watch the 6th episode. It really captures that beautiful sadness that you tie from pillar to post in the story. Tell me what the fans and the viewers of the show can expect watching tonight's episode.
Somebody said I thought very deftly, it is less a love story than a story about love. Yeah. Because love story carries with it certain expectations, Adam, that I'm quite sure this show does not meet, nor did it want to seek to meet. So I would say before you sit down to watch the finale, have your mind open. Try and lean in and read it as the complicated, multi-layered thing we intended it to be. It's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you everything. It asks you to decide exactly what it is you've just watched. It asks you to believe what you wish to believe, but all the evidence is there. Everything that you need to figure it out is there if you choose to absorb it, and I hope you do. We didn't want it to be pat. We didn't want it to be simple. We didn't rest until we felt we had the right balance of saying enough, but not saying too much. That's always the thing, isn't it? Enough, but not too much. How do you show respect for your viewers and allow them to connect certain dots themselves, allow them to do just the tiniest little bit of work on their own, while at the same time entertaining them and engaging them and making them feel as though they have a solvable puzzle to solve. We didn't want to be obscure. We wanted to be loving. And I hope that comes across. We worked exceptionally hard on it. Everybody did. I mean, this is a writing problem, but it's also an acting problem and a directing problem and a producing problem. Everything has to be just so if you're going to strike that balance. I want our audiences to feel that they haven't seen anything like this and that it scratches an itch that they didn't know they had.
It really is. It's a beautifully done show. The finale is absolutely fantastic. I'm very excited for the viewers and the listeners of the show to take a look at it. But Victor, my last question for you before I wrap up here with you today. What do you, as the creator of the show, think the most important message of Alice and Jack is? What do you want the viewers to go away with remembering?
Again, thanks for asking that. I mean, Jack says it in the opening frames of the first show. He says, love is the best thing we have. Now, that doesn't mean, Adam, that it's perfect or that it's a panacea or that it's not without its difficulties and trouble-causing aspects. But at the end of the day, for me, love in all its forms, not just romantic, but also fraternal, sororal, familial, parental, whatever you like, is our best hope. And I look around at the world. Before I came on with you, I read the paper. I just wanted to just lie face down on the floor. We are living in an exceptionally difficult time, and there have been other exceptionally difficult times that I've seen, but this one is right up there.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great if we paused for a second and said, the most valuable thing we have in the universe is each other. Full stop. Can we just for a second remember that even though we're capable of so much bad behavior, we are also capable of love, of this emotion which holds us together and can be stronger than the forces that would tear us apart and can take us to great heights and can help us evolve both literally and morally and intellectually and artistically and all the rest. Let's try and side with the good and try and remember all the good that we're capable of. That's what I'd like you to take away from it. I hope that people do. It's, again, not my place to say, but only my place to imply and hope. Our job as creators is to articulate both sides of the argument and let the audience decide. And we just try to do a good job on both sides, the side that we believe and the side that disagrees with that, and do justice to every point of view, and say, okay, audience, that's the best we can do. Maybe you'll think about this for a little while after you turn off our show, and maybe it'll be in your memory somewhere as you go forward. That I think would delight all of us who worked on Alice and Jack.
Well, like I said, I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed the program. I enjoyed watching it, and I'm very excited for the 6th episode to air tonight. Like I said, the show is called Alice and Jack. It's on PBS. Please check your local listings for the available times on whatever time zone and whatever location that you are in. Victor Levin, I want to thank you so much for your time, and I want to thank you for really capturing the essence of the messiness of love and life. As someone who is a hopeless romantic, I felt so much of this show and so much of the themes and things that happen in the show. So I'm glad I got the chance to talk to you. And I just wanted to say thank you for making such a wonderful show and producing it and creating it. So Victor Levin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to having you back on the show soon.
I look forward as well. Thank you so much, Adam.
Foundation Radio is hosted, recorded, and produced by Adam Barnard. Additional narration and production is provided by the executive voice, Sam Krepps. Our mixing and engineering was done by Carl Pinnell. Our intro and outro music is performed by Dumb Ugly. Additional musical accompaniment is performed and produced by Enrichment. Our cover art photography was done by Dylan Enninger. Follow Adam on Instagram and Twitter, or X or whatever, at This Is Goober, and follow the show on Twitter, again, not calling it X, at FND Radio Pod. Find the entire show archive at foundationradio.net. This has been a Butts Carlton Media production, Butts Carlton, proprietor.
That doesn't work for me, brother. Peace, Carl!